And now on Radio Flange Goblet, it's the After Movie Diner. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the After Movie Diner. And first up, I would like to, I don't know whether it's apologize, but basically I start the show with some comedy or write a little sketch or write a little parody of radio chatter or something like that, and I normally throw that up at the beginning of the show. I've actually been sat on this show for over a week. I'd already edited the film conversation and I'd done a song and I was happy with and stuff, but I just couldn't write anything for the opening of the show, and it tends to plague me a little bit when I can't write something. I normally come up with something. I normally try and do something, but it just hasn't been on the cards for me this week for whatever reason, and I can't really hold off on the episode much longer. It's already been a week, which is a real shame, and I apologize for that. I just hoped that some sort of inspiration would come or something, and it just didn't, so I apologize for that. And then tonight, I was sat at home and I was thinking, well, I should probably put the episode up in some form. I should probably just dash something off, try and write something. And then the news came through that Robin Williams had died. And, that was incredibly tragic, sad, unexpected. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Gilliam, so his appearance in Baron Munchausen as King of the Moon, and his appearance especially in The Fisher King, which I think is some of his finest filmed work, obviously means a great deal to me. But, Good Morning Vietnam was a huge film for me growing up. I loved that movie. Little lines still stick in my head, like when he says to Forrest Whitaker's character, well, the first thing we're going to do is requisition you a new name. I don't know why, but that always sticks in my head. But there's so many little off-asides in that film that he clearly improvised, that it's an incredible powerhouse performance. Just any of his stand-up bits, basically, as he's being Adrian Cronauer and improvising, it's just incredible, because he's, it's one thing to improvise within the contemporary world around you, and be able to look at things or see things or whatever and improvise around what you see right in front of you. It's another thing to be able to seemingly riff or improvise or go off on jokes and things to do with a period in time like the Vietnam War, which obviously he would have been aware of as he would have lived through it. But still to be able to riff like that on something that had already been and gone was quite surprising, and phenomenally talented. And, I'd recently seen The Angriest Man in Brooklyn, which, while, far from anybody who's involved in that film, far from their best work, is still a damn good little independent kind of comedy drama, which is definitely worth checking out. But yeah, for me, although obviously I saw films like Dead Poets Society and Good Will Hunting, and obviously an early great performance in World According to Garp next to John Lithgow, for me, it'll always be The Fisher King that I think will be the peak of Robin Williams' acting. He was also an incredibly funny and frenetic stand-up in stuff, especially like his night at the Metropolitan Opera House. That's fantastic. But yeah, so it just that was a tragedy, and I know that earlier in the year we lost Rick Mayall, which has affected people a lot as well. And just recently, in fact, just a few days ago, Menahem Golan, who was the producer, or one of the producers behind all the Cannon films, and anyone who listens to the Dr. Action and Kick-Ass Kid commentaries show know that the Doc and I are big fans of Cannon's output as well. So it's been a funny old year so far for losing people, and it really is, it's really been sad and tragic. I think, speak just personally ever so slightly, if it's true that sadly Robin Williams took his own life due to depression or manic depression, he'd been very open about his addictions obviously in his life, but not necessarily his depression, or not to my knowledge. But if that is true, then I really do, I put this on my Facebook, but I'll reiterate it here, I really do hope on a personal level that people open up the discussion again about manic depression and about bipolar and various other forms of mental health issues, because honestly, you probably are not aware, but there are, a huge amount of people, probably almost everyone has something. Everyone has anxiety or stress or neuroses of some kind, mild forms of manic depression or low end of bipolar, right up to the full blown scale, and sometimes they won't even admit it to themselves. Sometimes they certainly won't admit it to other people, and the national discussion or even the international discussion on human mental health is just not being had. And I really do think that there should be a complete stigma removal from it. Like I said, you probably know people with some form of mental health, or like I said, neurosis, anxiety, stress, things like this. So that's the first hurdle. And the second hurdle is, while I completely understand that it can help extraordinarily manic cases, and while I know that it can make life a lot more manageable for people, and I would never ever want to remove that, I think the over-medication versus open discussion, the filling the body full of mood-altering chemicals and barely tested brain-altering pills is a real detriment. I think as an animal, as a race, as a people, we should really be far more open to talking about it than medicating it. Anyway, I am going to be appearing on a podcast from my good friend Chris Jones, who's appeared previously on the Rutger Hauer episode and the Christmas episode of the After Movie Diner, and I am going to be appearing on his podcast about mental health that he does, which is a great show. And that is the show Panic Stations UK, which is available on iTunes and also TalkShoe, where the After Movie Diner is available. So I will be putting the links up for Panic Stations UK, where I will go sort of deeper into this, because things can get difficult, and people can feel things, and I feel things, and I don't have any sort of extreme form of anything, but I certainly do suffer. I do certainly suffer with depression, and certainly growing up suffered with manic episodes. But I can certainly say that with everything that's gone on in my life, and this year, which I've not made hugely public, but it's been a tough 2014 for me. And doing the show and having the friends on Facebook and Twitter and being part of something like this has really, really helped this year. And everyone who listens to the show has really helped me this year. And so a huge thank you to everyone for that. But like you can tell, I put off the show if I can't write, 3 minutes of silly names basically at the top of the show, and I worry about that no end. And it's difficult when you want to put the show out, because it's a positive thing in your life, and it's a thing that you really treasure, and it's a thing that's really important to you. And then you get all tied up in knots over one little thing for the show. You can see just, what I'm trying to do, and how perfectionist I can be about the whole thing. And the thing that was holding me back from being able to write it is the stuff that I've been going through personally, which, while, as I say, not as severe, and I would never claim it to be necessarily, does tie into the possible cause for Robin Williams' suicide. So I just wanted to bring it up and say thank you to anyone who listens or downloads the show. It's a huge help to me, and I do love putting it together each week, and I apologize that this week it's been late. But yes, Robin Williams will be eternally missed, as he was such a source of laughter and energy and positivity in the world, and we do need more of that, which again I feel bad therefore that I haven't written something stupid and silly at the top of the show, because it really should start with something stupid and silly and go on that way. So I'm sorry there's been this big serious preamble. Hopefully, Filip and my discussion about Lucio Fulci will put you all back in a better mood. And yeah, if you are someone listening to this who suffers in any way from mental health issues, please do go online, try and find charities, try and find help, try and find support, speak to your family, speak to your friends. You'll be surprised what people will do for you. I've been surprised this year what people will do for each other when you ask for help. And it can be incredibly difficult to ask for help, and you can feel guilty asking for help, and you can feel embarrassed about asking for help, and you can feel that you're being a burden. And I know this all too well because I feel that on all too frequent an occasion. And yet I've only been shown by the important people in my life utter kindness, support, enthusiasm, and just a will for me to get everything back on track. Not least of all, the people who both appear on this show but also listen and support this show. So, yeah, thank you so much. And now, on with our Lucio Fulci discussion. So as the sounds of a wonderful, deep and intense Bronx argument waft off into the Sunday evening dusk, approaching rapidly while the smell of garbage and marijuana wafts through my window here, I would like to say a big hello and welcome back to the After Movie Diner, to the incredibly knowledgeable and wonderfully nice chap, the podcaster's best friend, the Swedish cinemasochist. It's Mr. Filip Önell. Hello, sir. Welcome back to the booze of the After Movie Diner.
Hi, Jan. It's great to be back to this show. It's been a year, hasn't it? Or
has it been a year since we did the what was the movie? What were the
Clive Barker movies?
Clive Barker was the name. I was going John Carpenter. No. Clive Barker, that was it. Yes, we did the Clive Barker retrospective. It's probably been about a year. And this episode itself, I've been saying, oh, yeah, we'll do it this month. Oh, we'll do it next week. We'll do it. But we finally got around to doing it. It's just, for me, at the moment, to sit down and have time to watch 3 movies back to back, it's kind of, or 3 movies in general, it's a bit difficult. I've got 5 shows. I'm job hunting and various other things. So it's
the show with you're doing the show with Mike
Murphy.
That's right. Yeah, you do that, and you do the Dr. Action, the Kick-Ass Kid, and all that stuff.
Which I've reduced to twice a month. Dr. Action is twice a month. B-Movie Bargain Bin is once a month, and then I do Diner, Crosstalk, and when he can, I do Drunk on VHS with Mo as well, which was fine when it was just showing up, but now Mo keeps going, oh, we should watch this movie before the show, and I'm like, oh, great, now I have, because it to some extent, watching movies for me now has become a bit like homework, and whereas with the movies we're going to be covering tonight, that was quite a pleasant surprise and quite an exciting thing. Because I happen to, the more I delve into the Italian horror or action or post-apocalyptic genre of the 70s and 80s, which the Italians churned out, the more I love them. But
oh, they're great. They're all fantastic.
Yeah, they're all wonderful. But some of the movies I have to watch for Drunk on VHS, I'm like, really? Oh, okay.
Blue Ruin, for example.
Yeah. Oh goodness, Blue Ruin. Yes, not an exciting film.
The art of slow filmmaking.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, apart from that, it's a lot of fun, and I do enjoy doing it. It's just I wish I had more time to just kind of sit and watch films. Sir, you wanted to do a Fulci episode. Let's delve back into where you first came across the Italian master of gore.
When was that? It's difficult. I think it was Zombie. I don't know what to call it, Zombie 2 or Zombie Flesh Eaters, but that movie, of course, Zombie.
Sure. In the States, it's just called Zombie, I think.
Yeah, I think I came across that movie. I don't know if I saw the trailer, if I saw the poster, but I think to remember that was like, I saw something related to that movie, and I was like, I have to see this movie. Mm-hmm. And I think it was after I'd seen the Romero movies, maybe. I'm not sure. But, I saw Zombie, and I was like, just completely, I think it was the first, I'm not sure if it was the first Italian horror movie I'd seen, but I was really taken by the strangeness of it all. I mean, the filmmaking and the dubbing, of course, and the gore, which is so unusual, and how graphic and how just how violent and creepy it all was.
How edited was it in Sweden, or did you get the uncut versions?
Oh, I don't think these movies were released in Sweden.
Oh, okay.
I think they were banned.
Okay, yeah, because in the UK, obviously, a lot of his movies got. I think there's at least a couple, if not more, on the video nasties list. But there was also a ton that were hacked to bits. I mean, certainly, City of the Living Dead was hacked to bits. I remember.
Yeah, I mean. If you edit down City of Living Dead, then what do you have left?
Right, exactly. Well, you have Christopher George running around, I suppose.
Welcome to the City of the Dead.
Yeah, with his cigar and his beige corduroy jacket.
Yeah, they're about to enter the at the end. They're about to go down into the Mausoleum there, and he's like, "Man, I need a cigar."
Yeah. Well, the whole movie has one. The whole film almost. Yeah. So that was pretty hacked to bits.
We also had that in Sweden. It wasn't called Video Nasties. It was called Studio S. You know, we all had the same moral panic. You know, it's like, oh my God, these movies should not be seen. Like, I can't believe the cops actually went into stores and just took the movies away, like Cronenberg movies and stuff like that. Like, insanity. I mean.
Oh yeah, there were people like, you know, violently attacked and stuff over seizing videos and things, and then the videos were all burned.
And the movie that really pissed off Sweden was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which they actually interviewed a bunch of kids on TV. This can be seen on YouTube, by the way. They're interviewing kids. They're like, "Oh, you guys have seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?" And the kids are like, "Yeah, we love it. It's got people getting hacked up by chainsaws." Like,
but it hasn't really.
No, it doesn't. And in fact, 20 years later, they interviewed some of these kids, and they said that we got paid to say these things.
Sure,
it was all fault. They hadn't seen the movies.
Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't seen. Yeah. They've recently released the Video Nasties 2, which is an updated documentary, but I've seen the original Video Nasties documentary that came out recently in the UK, and I mean, it was all Mary Whitehouse and all those kind of people just stirring up bullshit.
Yeah, and in Sweden it was, you know, parents who just wasn't used to these sort of things. It was, you know, it was like rock and roll. You know, it was like, what is this loud noise? You know,
yeah. No, I mean, every sort of 20, 30 years, the world has a big change, and I think that, I mean, certainly in America, you have such upheaval going on with the civil rights movement, and then, of course, slap bang in the middle of that, you have Vietnam, their least popular war, and a lot of these mid to late 70s movies come off the back of that, and then that merges into the 80s action genre. But then, you know, with the Italians, with Fulci and so on, I mean, you know, he had some trouble in his native country. He was blacklisted, right, in Italy, and sort of routinely hated as well as a filmmaker for quite some time, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Fulci is, I mean, he's known as the Godfather of Gore. That's his nickname. And yeah, critics hated him and all that. But he was a guy who actually did a lot of comedies and stuff back in the 60s.
Right.
He wasn't a horror filmmaker. It's actually kind of funny. Like, he started out doing comedies and westerns and stuff like that. And then later in his career, he started doing horror movies, which is different from other horror filmmakers like Wes Craven or John Carpenter or David Cronenberg, who all start off doing horror movies. And then, well, with the exception of Cronenberg, they actually all really wanted to do other things. You know, Carpenter didn't want to do horror movies for the rest of his career. He wanted to do like a western, maybe.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like Fulci is like the reverse of those guys. It's like he's the opposite. He started off doing, westerns and other things, and then he started doing horror movies.
Yeah, and one of our listeners actually asked, have you seen a movie called Beatrice Cenci? He says he needs to watch it again, but if you haven't, I'll send you my copy. It's a really lush historical film and a total bummer, but good and hard to believe that Lucio directed it.
Yeah, I want to. I actually, I want to see that movie. I mean, I want to see most of the things Fulci has done. Although I think some of his other older films are difficult to track down. I don't know if they're even available on DVD.
Right.
But yeah, Fulci, he was a filmmaker who, people accuse him of, just having seen his zombie movies, like, oh, this guy doesn't know anything about plot or story or anything like that. No. Fulci understands story and plot and all these things. It's just that when he made Zombie and he made City of the Living Dead and the Beyond, he understood that what people want to see are not, actors acting or, sub storylines. It's just gore and scares, and that's what he delivered.
Right. I mean, but the difference is, you see, because I think I always get in sort of slightly dangerous territory because I criticize a lot of modern horror movies, certainly the remakes, and I'm not going to go down that road particularly, but I do criticize them for being gore, exploitative amount of nudity, and nothing else. And the thing with Fulci is that while, yes, you get gore, and yes, sometimes you get sort of exploitative nudity, what you're also getting, and what I think is lacking in modern horror and lacking in remakes, is you get atmosphere. And you get atmosphere by the bucket load. And I think that goes a long way. You also get this idea that scares come out of left field. They come out of in really random and imaginative ways. I mean, it's really easy to say, oh, I'm going to have someone cut off their hand. It's a lot more different to say, well, I'm going to have someone looking for a book fall on their back and then spiders eat his face. I mean, that's a much more imaginative, what the fuck and where did that come from kind of idea that I love,
Yeah, you watch his movies, and whenever there's no gore on screen, there's this incredible atmosphere, especially in City of the Living Dead. It's like this sense of impending doom. It's like, Christ, the world is over. You can feel it's like he uses a lot of wind and the sound design is just amazing on that movie.
Right.
Just,
I mean,
creepy.
The Italian movies, especially the 80s ones and the late 70s ones, are helped, as I have to be fair and say, as is Romero's, especially by the time you get to Day of the Dead, by amazing soundtracks. I mean, if you take off the opening of the Day of the Dead with the dum 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 hello, like if you take that away, it's not as dramatic or as atmospheric or as almost skin crawly. Like you say, the world has ended. Like once you take that away, it doesn't have that effect. And although in the three movies we're going to be covering, the Gates of what is loosely termed the Gates of Hell Trilogy, which is the City of the Living Dead, the Beyond, and the House by the Cemetery. In those movies, although soundtrack is used sparingly, I mean, it's not like Umberto Lenzi or something where the soundtrack is like bow, chicka, bow, bow, throughout the whole movie, which would be fun as well. Lucio Fulci uses it very sparingly in these three movies, but when it comes in, it's so effective.
Oh yeah, Fabio Frissi is his name, who's the soundtrack. Amazing scores. Although House by the Cemetery is not composed by Frissi, I think it's what's his name, Walter Rizzati. I think it's his name. Did he score that one?
Yes, I've not got that up yet. We were going to go in order.
I think so. But anyway, the scores, the synth scores, as they're called. Some people might say they're dated and all that, But
it's Rizzati who does the music for. It's Walter Rizzati who does the music for House by the Cemetery.
Indeed. But the scores are also part of what makes these movies so special. It's not an orchestral score. It's this sort of some people might accuse them of being plinky plonky, kind of music. But I think it's really effective. Especially
I think it's really effective. And if you think that he makes, I mean, this is the other incredible thing, is that he makes City of the Living Dead, The Black Cat, The Beyond, House by the Cemetery, and The New York Ripper. Undoubtedly, 4 or 5 of his most popular films, and he makes them in the space of 2 years. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That's the thing. Like, he made City of the Living Dead 1980. He made The Beyond. He made House by the Cemetery, The Black Cat.
All in 81. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes you wonder, okay, how much... Because I know people love to analyze these movies and say, like, this is what Fulci is trying to say, and this is what the movie's about. I don't think Fulci put too much thought, perhaps, in some of these movies. I mean, maybe The Beyond, but I don't... you watch something like City of the Living Dead, and I'm not sure... if that movie is supposed to have anything really to say. I don't think so.
I think City of the Living Dead, if we start with that one.
Well, actually, I just want to talk a little bit about Zombie 2 first, because that's the movie that really started this. Because, when he made Zombie...
And by the way, it was the first movie of his that I saw. My friend John Wallace bought me Zombie Flesh Eaters on VHS back in the early 90s. So yeah,
which is known as a rip-off of. In fact, George Romero was like angry at Fulci because how dare you rip off my movie? But actually,
it's nothing like it. It's nothing like the Romero movies at all.
Actually, and in fact, the screenplay was written, I think, before Dawn of the Dead. Actually, it was originally a screenplay. It was called Island of the Living Dead, I think. And it was about a scientist taking control of dead people. It was a different screenplay, but it was the same, like, set on an island. And then,
but Fulci, first of all, it's an island set movie, and therefore that is different to the urban environments that Romero's in. Secondly, it's he actually explains it. It's to do with, there's actually a history to why they're coming back to life and all the rest of it. And, thirdly, it's filmed completely different. It has different ideas in it. I understand that he may have seen the zombie films being successful and then thought, I'll have a bit of that. But everyone does that, so...
Well, the point in Zombie 2 when it gets, like, really rip-offy is when the guy says, my grandfather once told me that the dead will come out of the ground and suck the blood of the living. And it's like, okay, that sounds a little bit like that scene in Dawn of the Dead, Okay, that's the one point. But otherwise, no, it doesn't resemble Dawn of the Dead at all. I don't think anyone saw that movie and said, this is Dawn of the Dead. What the fuck, But that's kind of like what the Italians were back then. They were the asylum of their day. They were basically the guys who saw something, a big new movie and like, let's do that. Let's rip off that and make our own movie,
Except they did it because they are artists and because they're stylists, they did it with some level of prowess and finesse,
Yes, the real movies. They're not, like the asylum movies really at all. There's some effort put into these things, actually.
And they have, although they could be argued to be style over substance, the style is... The style is so pleasing and so well done that you don't really mind.
And Fulci did Zombie 2 because of financial reasons. Like, he was really, financial, he had a lot of problems back then. And he was like, okay, I'll make this movie. It'll, probably make a lot of money. Who knows? And it did. And I think the origin of City of the Living Dead was just like, just some company was like, hey, make another movie like Zombie 2, and Fulci was like, sure, this one made a lot of money, so let's make this one.
Yeah, although I don't see so much similarity between them. Apart from the idea of the dead rising from the grave.
Yeah.
But
the first Zombie was more like more of a traditional, but nowadays it's regarded as a zombie movie. But City of Living Dead is more of a gothic kind of horror movie.
Yeah, really. You've even got aspects of stuff like Rosemary's Baby and things like that in there with
also Lovecraft.
There's Lovecraft throughout these three movies,
which is
definitely.
So strange. Actually, it's like I don't know. Maybe it was the writer who, what was his name, Darman Sanchetti, I think, or something. Who wrote all
Dano Sanchetti.
Yeah, who wrote all these movies with Fulci. So I think there's an issue of who exactly wrote most of the some of these movies and all that, but there's some unusual stuff in there. Like Lovecraft. Like this movie takes place in Dunwich, which is
you've got the Massachusetts New England setting. You've got the Ouija board medium spirit. She's a psychic. You've got the weird phenomena like the flames and things. You've got all that aspect. And it's like in Zombie, although, yes, they are just zombies that come back and kill people. You've got the Spanish conquistador stuff. You've got the voodoo stuff. You've got the doctor scientific stuff. Like, there's I feel like he does pack it, whereas Romero makes a zombie film, doesn't explain where the zombies come from, and it's all about a reflection of society. Fulci's movies are almost zombies as a monster. They're not a reflection of anything. They are.
I mean, the Romero zombies are very human. They're very human.
Right.
These are not humans. These are like just soulless.
Well, they kind of, at certain bits, when you get into the last two, which are certainly similar, The Beyond and House by the Cemetery have a similar thing, they're actually more like ghosts made flesh. They're ghosts made corporeal. They're not zombies in the traditional sense. They are literally spirits coming back, trying to protect their land, their house, their building, their whatever. They're trying to stop the living, being near them.
I think that's why Zombie 2 is probably his most accessible film, because it's more of a traditional zombie movie, whereas this is much stranger, and some people don't like these other movies really that much, I think.
No, I mean, I love Zombie. It's certainly like my one touchstone, but I also have to say that I watch these back to back, and I love how intense they are and how unapologetic they are. That's what I love about them.
Yeah, and also the thing about Romero, when he talks about directing the zombies, he said, like, I don't want to tell everyone how they should walk, because then everyone starts doing the same walk, which is why some zombies walk really strangely in Dawn of the Dead, if you might have noticed that.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder what Fulci tells the zombies in his movies, because they all walk like they don't have any, they barely walk, actually.
Right.
And what's strange about Zombie 2 is that you notice that some of the zombies are blind in that one. I don't know what they were going with that, but that was very strange and creepy. But
well, he's got a thing for eyes. I mean,
that's right.
All through City of the Living Dead and The Beyond, not so much in the last one. And I have to say that House by the Cemetery, although having thematic similarities to The Beyond, actually is much different. It's far more a ghost story than the other two.
When we get to that one, that's a strange movie.
Yeah,
but also you talked about eyes. I mean, there's a lot of close-ups of eyes in City of the Living Dead.
City of the Living Dead, but I mean, The Beyond takes it to insane levels. I mean, almost everyone in The Beyond gets killed, damaged, died, attacked via the eyes.
Yeah,
and then, of course, you've got the blind woman, and then that blind thing gets transferred to a little girl, and there's a lot of eyes going on.
Of course, also, the Italians are known for their loving, zoom-ins and close-ups of people's eyes. That's a thing that's every Italian director does. And
right.
I don't know what sets Lucio Fulci apart from other directors, because he kind of directs the same way, but I don't know, I guess his sensibilities are very different from other...
I mean, I think his main comparison is what, Argento?
Yeah, Argento, and then there's, Mario Bava, of course.
But Bava, I guess, but I mean, Bava I always think of as a bit more classical. I think Argento is more... In Argento's best work, in terms of the way he uses the camera, he's far more like Carpenter in terms of widescreen, static, set up shots. Whereas I feel like Fulci, in the way that he uses the camera, and certainly if they were made this quickly, it's certainly a bit more kind of guerrilla, a bit more on the fly, a bit more rough and ready, which I don't mind. I mean, it's certainly not handheld, it's not shaky cam, I don't mean that, but it just seems to be a bit more pacey, a bit more, get to the point a lot quicker, I think.
Yeah, that's probably the case.
City of the dead. The living dead. A cursed city. Where the gates of hell have been opened.
You've got to. You must reclose those gates.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special broadcast. Dunwich police authorities have declared a state of emergency, effective immediately within Dunwich County. All citizens are requested to return to their homes as quickly as possible. In case of necessity, contact this station, Radio WDWC. The telephone number is 825-9881. All citizens are urged to remain calm.
Did you
when you were in this trance, did you see anything besides that tombstone?
Oh, yes. I saw a priest who, by hanging himself, opened the gates of hell.
She's still here. She's still in the house. No, she's in here. I know she's still in the house. I don't want to see her anymore. Gary, get her out, please. Tell her to go. She's in here. Do you hear her? They're worse.
Guess what? It's All Saints' Day.
A demanding, implacable enemy whose search for blood is never satiated.
But yeah, so City of the Living Dead. I mean, it's the movie. The story of City is it begins with a priest in Dunwich who.
Yeah.
We never told why he does this, but he commits suicide. He
hangs himself. Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I think City is the one movie of all of these ones that I feel like they could have, I guess Fulci wanted to get this one done quickly, but I feel like it could have worked a little bit more on the script here because there's a little bit. I mean, like, why does he hang himself? He looks very depressed, I have to say, at the beginning of this movie. Like, he looks... We could have had a scene later on where they're like, to talk with someone like, oh yeah, I knew Father Thomas, and he was a very depressed guy, like he was all that. You could have had something like that, but no, they, no.
I mean, it's fair to say that although I do like this movie, it doesn't make a lick of sense.
No, I mean,
you've got at the beginning with the priest hanging himself is intercut with a seance around a Ouija board in which someone is the seer, the psychic is being able to see him or feel that he's doing it or is aware that he's killing himself or something.
Yeah, and there's something going on there with the eyes again. It's like we see what she's seeing and a lot of eye shots as well there.
And it's the idea that if he hangs himself, that the gates of hell will open.
Gates of Hell.
which is the theme. I mean, that's why these are called the Gates of Hell Trilogy. Gates of Hell Trilogy is because that's the theme that runs through the three movies. Is that there is the doorway to hell is under all these buildings. Again,
very different from the Romero movies. These are much more sort of religious, and I guess it's because they're of course made by an Italian director. So there's a more kind of, I think, Catholic point of view here on these creatures like. They're obviously, of course, like I said, they're soulless corpses.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people who attack Fulci for being a Romero ripoff are missing the point. I mean, you look at, quickly a film I know a lot about, like The Evil Dead. They've openly admitted that Night of the Living Dead and Texas Chainsaw Massacre was huge influences on that movie. But you don't watch The Evil Dead and go, well, this is just the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or this is just Night of the Living Dead, any more than you watch Zombie and go, well, this is just Dawn of the Dead. Because it isn't.
And you know what movie influenced Tobe Hooper when he made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Night of the Living Dead.
Right. Every slasher has been influenced by Psycho. So, I mean, this idea that Fulci is a ripoff it needs to be completely removed. He's not at all. He is completely his own filmmaker. He has his own style. His gore is very grand guignol. It's very over the top, and it's not in the same. He's dealing with spirits. He's dealing with religion. He's dealing with ghosts. He's dealing with when his zombies get killed or his zombies get stabbed. Sometimes they leak maggots and like dust and dirt, and they're really dead people. Dead things. They're much different.
the Italians love maggots. They love maggots.
Well, City of the Living Dead, of course, has the scene which I could never have acted in. I don't care how much they would have paid me, I know in this movie they weren't paid very much because it's a low budget. But a front room of a building, literally gets attacked by 1,000,000,000,000,000 maggots, and all the 4 main actors have to have them in their clothes and mouths and hair and eyes and
And apparently Christopher George pulled a prank on Fulci and actually put a whole bunch of maggots in his, bag or something.
Good. Because Fulci should not have escaped the maggots. Because as an actor, there's no way. Because it goes on. It's an interminably long scene because they're stood in this room and the maggots just keep coming for what seems like ages.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the Italians love maggots. You've seen the Argento films, like Phenomena, with
sure. Well, and then
that's just maggots everywhere.
And in Suspiria, of course, you get the is it a rain of maggots, or a rain of bugs, or something comes.
And they get boxes of maggots. But right. I think the guys like Argento and Fulci, I think they understand, maggots. They know what
they understand bugs.
They know what upsets us.
I think that Argento at least looks like a bug. You know what I mean? Argento's got that big domed head and the big eyes, and he's very spindly. Whereas Fulci looks more like an old, slightly pervy librarian and/or history professor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Fulci. You watch this movie and how do you write this movie? I mean, this screenplay is like you got zombies teleporting behind people and ripping out their brains. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I think this is where the ghost aspect to all these movies comes in, is that Fulci realizes that you can have scares that first of all, the whole movie has an overarching kind of feeling of despair and tension and suspense, so that any minute, you never feel at ease watching a Fulci movie, certainly not these three, because you know that any minute, like I say, spiders could eat your face, or a zombie could teleport behind you and ram your head into a nail, or something could happen. So... with the smoke and the gothic New England look to it and everything, I mean, it's really... It packs it on, so that the plot about the woman in New York seeing this priest kill herself and, we've got to get to the graveyard because it's going to be All Saints' Day and we have to stop the dead rising one. That's a fairly okay MacGuffin to kind of keep the movie moving. But ultimately, you're right. It is a series of very horrific set pieces.
And also, these zombies, unlike the Romero zombies, are really disgusting. You don't want to get near them. They just ugh,
right. While the makeup is not as accomplished in terms of realism, quote unquote, or natural, natural, they are more sort of graphic, artistic, and they certainly make your skin crawl more. I mean, there's something really visceral about Fulci that I'm not sure. I mean, Day of the Dead has some really visceral moments in it. I suppose all three do. I'm going to stop comparing them to Romero.
Sure, but the Romero zombies are a bit more funny at times,
they're more of a reflection of us, whereas these are... This is literally... the feeling you would get if your friend went, let's go dig up a corpse. And you'd be like, I don't want to dig up a corpse. You'd be like, no, let's go dig up a corpse. They're really as if they're the chill you get in a graveyard. They are they are your biggest fear, which is that our body is eaten away and decays,
Exactly. I mean, and you talked about the story here. I mean, it's very thin, and there's a lot of filler here. I mean, at some point, Christopher George and what's her name, Katrina
McCall.
Yeah, they stop for a second and look at the map, and she's like, "Man, I'm hungry. Can we get something to eat?"
Yeah, right.
It's like in the middle of the movie, you're like. And he's like, "Oh, come on, this was your idea. Let's go." And she's like, "Oh, come on, I want to eat."
You feel like Fulci is behind the camera. Cut, let's break for lunch, as if she's really complaining to Fulci and it's not part of the script.
Yeah, I mean, Christopher George. I've seen him in other movies, like Pieces.
He's in Pieces. Yeah, he was in a lot of these Italian schlock movies.
And, he's got the same grin on in every single movie because he's getting a big paycheck. Christopher
George is the budget Shatner. I mean, I know at this point in the late 70s, early 80s, Shatner was the budget Shatner, but like George is the budget Shatner, and he's, I mean, the movies I've seen him in is he's in Pieces, he's in City of the Living Dead, and he's in The Exterminator, the Ginty revenge movie. Oh, and of course, Enter the Ninja, which is the other movie.
I've seen his death scene in that. That's very funny.
He's in Enter the Ninja, and the only one which I haven't seen but I want to see is Graduation Day with him in it, which is, of course, another weird early 80s slasher.
I bet he's chomping on that cigar and just grinning. But
yeah, he's just walking around going, "Hi, I'm Christopher George with my cigar. Oh, you want me to go over here? Fair enough. Okay."
And he's playing basically the same character that what's his name? Ian McCullen plays in Zombie, a reporter who's like, I got to investigate this.
I mean, because when I watched Visiting Hours recently, the Canadian slasher with which has a Shatner or basically an extended Shatner cameo in it, and I'm watching it, I'm going, this should be Christopher George. I mean, it's the same role, It's the corduroy-wearing, big-haired, large-collared, 70s male dude, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
just wandering around.
But the actors in this movie, I mean, I forgot her name again, Katrina McCall. Yeah. She's good. I mean, she's a good screamer, I have to say.
Sure, yeah, very good.
And then there's actually a Swedish woman in this movie, Janet Agren, I think her name is.
Janet
Agren.
Agren, yeah. No, I see
the blonde, the sexy blonde one.
Sure.
She's been in some other Italian movies I've noticed, and
I think the cast is great. I really do. I think the cast of all three films. I never felt. Maybe in House by the Cemetery, some of them get a bit annoying and a bit irritating. Certainly certainly a husband or boyfriend in that, and the little boy in that needs to be belted out of a window. But
someone else who loves Fulci, of course, is Tarantino, who has you repeated a lot of imagery from this one, like the tears, the blood tears, and the woman trapped in a coffin. We see that in Kill Bill,
sure.
Which is a great sequence in this movie. I mean, that is a terrifying scene. That's just like, how did no one say that's a fantastic movie moment when she's trapped in that coffin? I've never seen that before. No. I've seen it after, of course, in Kill Bill, but yeah, that's a scary scene.
It's only undermined by the fact that he clearly hears her the first time, and yet he stands around for ages until she screams, and you just think, why did she not scream to begin with? But
another thing is they show us the later on we see the funeral guy, embalming someone.
Yeah.
That phantasm looking guy.
Yes.
Looks good. Shouldn't she be embalmed? How can she? If she was dead, then they should have embalmed her, right?
Right, but she essentially comes back to life and then is fine for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it's a very strange film, but I think City of the Living Dead is probably the scariest of all of these movies. I think it's the most effective one, frankly, of all of these ones we've seen. I think so. I think just there's something about City that just it just gets to me. So, I mean, teleporting zombies, they're the worst,
Yeah, well, yeah, they are. You've got to watch out for the teleporters. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the Beyond may pip it, but that's only because I find the Beyond a more satisfying experience, possibly because
and then there's
the ending isn't quite so. I'm sorry, what? Like the ending of City, I'm like,
the ending
I
is strange.
don't understand it at all.
I read somewhere that it was the editor who accidentally spilled coffee on the ending, so they or something like on the film, on the film reel.
Right.
But then it was like, then I read that no, actually Fulci just approved of this because it was the editor's decision to end the movie like that or something. I'm not sure. It was the story behind that ending is a little strange.
Because I guess it's meant to be a shock ending, but I mean, nothing happens.
I think the kid is supposed to be turning into a zombie or something.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I don't know. But again, it's a very random movie. There's a character named Bob in the movie for some reason.
By Giovanni Ribisi.
I love that there's a local pervert. It's such a typical thing you see in movies. A local pervert. I saw that Jodie Foster movie recently called The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane.
Well, I don't think he's meant to be a pervert. I think he's meant to be a misunderstood kid who the girls have kind of befriended, but all the adults think is a pervert.
It's strange. I mean, they say something about like there was this little girl who got really hurt because of Bob or something. I'm not sure. It's
Yeah, I think there was probably an accident. I'm sure he's sort of slightly simple, but I don't think he's because isn't one of the therapist's friends, the one he's dating or whatever, isn't she good friends with Bob and hangs out with Bob, and there's not really an issue with Bob?
Yeah, it's strange. There's another girl, the father who kills him, of course, in that very brutal scene. Who also
right? I mean that again is utterly ridiculous. The fact that he feels justified with no evidence whatsoever of sticking a man's head into a masonry drill, essentially.
I love the kid. The kid is hiding in the car, and then this chick comes in. And it's like, hey, come on, let's smoke some joint. Like horror dialogue.
But no, I have to say you're right in terms of the effects and the kills, because the drill through the head might be the most effective, or one of the most effective special effects, like actual makeup effects that I've ever seen in a movie, because a lot of that is the actual actor. And a lot of that is an actual drill. So, I mean, it seems completely bizarre how they did it, but it's very effective, and it's utterly horrible to watch in the uncut form.
Today, it would probably be done in one shot, CGI drill, and it would just be
right. It would be awful.
But the thing about Fulci, and it's like the scene in Zombie, with the wooden going into the woman's eye, in Zombie.
Sure.
It's the same thing. Like it's slow, like it goes slow, and it goes further into the, that's effective. Like you see them going, like it's too slow,
Yeah, speed it up, get it over done with. No, the thing with the drill sequence, I would have to say there are two scenes in all three movies we watched that even me, considering all the horror movies we've both seen, that still kind of both amazed me because of the way that the effect was pulled off, but also kind of made my skin creep, like a little kind of, oh geez, this is tough to watch. And the first one is the drill scene from City, but the second one, funny enough, comes from House by the Cemetery, which is the throat slashing scene, which is where you get the one slash with the knife where it goes, and again, it's not like a slasher scene we've seen where a thin line of blood happens and maybe then it opens up and then it trickles out. You see a big kitchen knife with full pressure put against someone's neck. It cuts a swathe through one of the neck. They then do that 2 more times. It's not just once. It's like big gouges are pulled out of this neck, and it's utterly, utterly grotesque.
There's a death scene in House by the Cemetery that I find really upsetting. It's not the one you said. It's another one. But but as for City, I mean, just the dialogue in City, by the way, is just great. Like when you introduce to the blonde woman, sitting in she's talking about incest and loving her father. Like the dialogue in this movie is a lot of pervy dialogue. Like Bob wants to have sex with his doll, and then this is talking about incest. Like, yeah, it's like, is that supposed to go hand in hand with being a horror movie? Like a lot of perv dialogue.
I don't know. You often wonder if in these Italian movies that something didn't get lost in translation.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. But I think City is an effective shocker. It's it's more of a, I would say it's more of a collection of good scenes than rather perhaps a good movie as a whole. But I think it's really effective. I think it's probably the most effective film I've seen of Fulci. It's just there's something about this one. I mean, this is the movie I had to hide when I was younger. I had to hide it in my collection. Like I didn't want to even look at the cover because it was so horrible. The movie was so horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's out of the three of them, it's probably the most. If you get afraid by gore, if you get afraid by violence, if you get afraid by atmosphere, it's probably the one that is going to be the most intense viewing, because at a certain point, you're right, the film doesn't have anything else other than its violent set pieces, but because the violent set pieces are done so well and so atmospherically and so it's because it's so alien and different to your standard American or British or Western filmmaking. There is something that I think that's the success of some of these Euro movies, is that because they are unlike what we are normally fed, you're already uneasy going in. I mean, you might not be in Sweden, but I know that me, from my kind of very simple Hollywood Western sensibility, you put in something like this, especially when I was younger, and not so much now when I'm more versed in it, but when I was younger, you put something in like this, and everyone looks slightly different because they're Italian, you know, they're European or Italian actors. The atmosphere is different than you're used to. It's kind of like, they're kind of like Hammer horror, but turned up to 11. I mean, there's so much violence and gore and atmosphere and smoke and white weird faces and odd characters and, you know, walls cracking and mirrors smashing, and there's so much going on in it that it's quite an intense view, I think. Quite an intense watch.
I read somewhere that these movies didn't do too well in Italy. I mean, they were not taken very seriously, but
no, he was not respected.
No, but worldwide, they were just, people were completely taken by them. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I would have to say that, especially having seen them now recently with hindsight, and also having seen the heavily cut versions that were available in the UK growing up, because I did see City of the Living Dead and I did see Zombie as a teenager. I hadn't seen House by the Cemetery, but I, of course, had seen that iconic, very shining-like poster with the Jack Nicholson-looking guy with the big dagger looming over the house. I'd seen that everywhere on VHS covers. But I did see this when I was younger, and I did see it edited. And I would have to say, although I'm not, I was squeamish as a kid, and I'm not a huge advocate of like gore for gore's sake, watch these movies uncut. Watch them as uncut as possible, because there's something to the violence that is as interesting and stylistic as it is horrifying, I think.
Yeah, the scene where she pukes out her intestines. I mean,
again, it's a slow scene. She doesn't just like vomit up a lung or something. It's constant, like innards and livers and colons and all sorts of stuff just coming out of her mouth, and forever. And
apparently those were like, real fresh intestines. Like kill a goat. Yeah. They just kill a goat. So the actors that put this in. And I've seen that actress. She's in a lot of other Fulci movies, actually. She's in House by the Cemetery, actually. Mm-hmm. But yeah, these movies are really intense. Even today, these movies are just so unusually intense, because today everything is so artificial, the way the intensity is. It's sort of like the way it's edited, quickly, and all these things, and news is telling you how intense it is. Like, it doesn't work.
I also feel, and again, this might be hindsight, and this might be giving it too much credit, and this might be, I am aware that these are the schlock gore movies, B movies of their day. So I know that he was, to some extent, just knocking these off, which makes them all more remarkable that they hold up today, to be fair.
He was a good filmmaker.
Yeah,
that's why.
But I feel like, rather than and we were talking about this on the round table, the Google Hangout we had, rather than sort of shock for shock's sake, like you get with these either real sex movies, or you get with Serbian film, or you get with Human Centipede, or you get with these other kind of gruey, kind of grimy, kind of shock for shock's sake, the torture porn thing. I do feel like, although these are shocking, and although they are visceral, and although they are intense, the point is to horrify you. The point is not to shock necessarily. It's to actually unnerve you, to scare you, the way that a haunted house would, the way that a horror movie should, the way that there seems to be more of an artistic purpose to it, or certainly a creative purpose to it, than just what's the sickest thing I can think up? Okay, a guy being sewn arse to mouth and shitting through the other guy. Let's do that, shall we? Like, rather than thinking up sick stuff or skull fucking or whatever, he's actually genuinely inventive with it. I mean, that's how I feel. That's how I come at them. I might be being completely naive.
Yes, and again, the atmosphere, the mood of these movies, you don't get that these days in movies.
I can't remember the last film I saw that was genuinely scary. I mean, You're Next in the cinema. I was relatively by myself. It's in the dark and all the rest of it. It had that nice, I'm a little bit on edge kind of feeling to it, and maybe there'll be some jump scares. And I consider that a very good horror movie, or a good modern horror movie. But I think the last kind of modern horror movie I saw that kind of unnerved me in the same way that this did was probably something like High Tension, the Ajar movie.
Oh, yeah, that movie.
Which, I know people have like different reactions to it, but I felt that despite the ending, I felt that especially the chase sequence where the girl is in the car and the guy is chasing her in the gas station bathroom and all that, I at least felt there was some attempt at real tension, at real scare, which you don't get anymore.
Yeah, some people might say, they look at these movies and say, well, there's barely any dialogue, there's barely any script here. But it's like, what I want from a horror movie is atmosphere, good atmosphere,
yes.
and I like the slow pace of these movies and the long takes, and all that, those things. That makes these movies so effective as well.
Yeah.
Whereas in movies today, everything is so, like in movies today, if you make a horror movie today, they'll probably play like some, song on the radio, some teeny song, and the teenagers are talking about smoking weed and like that. Let's go out and party, like. This has this kind of annoying, like, teenage fun atmosphere to a lot of horror movies today, and that I can't stand that. You don't get that at all with these older, Italian horror movies.
Well, these movies are mainly populated by adults. I mean, obviously you've got the very young kids in House by the Cemetery, but it's mainly populated by adults. They're mainly, trying to they're mainly kind of haunted house movies, to be fair. Yeah. They're normally going to a church or a house or a hotel or somewhere where stuff's going down and the gates of hell are going to open and whatever. But I feel like you say, they're not talking about getting drunk, they're not talking about getting stoned, they're not all excited for the apocalypse, They're genuinely panicked trying to stop it, and there's a genuine sense of nervousness and tension and horror to it.
And, something like The Conjuring, which, I thought was really boring. I didn't get anything out of that movie. The thing also is that, a lot of horror movies today, a lot of ghost movies today, a lot of supernatural movies. And because it's all about finding the devil, finding the evil. And at the end, they win.
They banish the evil, right, yeah.
Whereas in these movies, these are very pessimistic movies, by the way. They're very depressing movies, actually, very nihilistic, actually. These movies end with pretty much the world coming to an end. Zombie ends with the zombies taking over. This one seems to suggest that the danger is still there.
The Beyond ends with them literally being in hell.
Not a happy ending at all. Yeah, and House by the Cemetery is like, okay, wait, what?
Right, yeah. House by the Cemetery is even more, weird. But then House by the Cemetery, I feel like, has a completely different atmosphere and vibe to these other two.
The ending also, I think, to House, which we can get to later, is it perhaps? Yeah, we'll talk about the ending later. But yeah, City. So
no, I mean, I'm not going to necessarily. I think the Beyond is a tighter, slightly more pleasing watch in that regard. But I certainly think that in terms of visceral treats, in terms of sitting down to watch a horror movie that is going to give you the goods with both barrels, I think City delivers, definitely.
Yeah. So the Beyond, I guess we should...
Sure.
But by the way, I just want to talk about one little thing. When Fulci was shooting the scene where Christopher George gets his brains eaten by rats,
yes,
that the rats wouldn't eat the brains, and Fulci was actually screaming at the rats, going, "Eat them, eat them, eat them!" He was actually screaming at them.
Well, quite right too. They should eat the brains.
Fulci was known for having kind of a high, he could get very angry easily. Like when he was shooting Zombie, like he was having problems with some actors there, and like he jumped to the ground and he started eating mud, and he was like really pissed off. So yeah, Fulci,
he was a nice City of the Living Dead. Oh yeah, sorry, carry on, dude. Finish up.
Fulci, he was known. Some people really liked him. Some said that he had, he could get very angry at times, So, but I think he was probably, just under a lot of stress. He just wanted to get the movies done.
Yeah, and as if she hadn't had enough in City of the Living Dead, Katrina McCall comes back for The Beyond. And here she is again as the lead character, Lisa Merrill.
Yeah.
And she's actually credited as Catherine McCall in this one.
Yeah, her names keep changing. I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, she's Katrina McCall with a K in City, and she's Catherine McCall with a K in The Beyond. Even though her real name is Katrina McCall with a C. So I don't know what's going on there, but maybe Fulci just had no idea how to spell it, or maybe different people did the titling, or who knows. But imagine being her and going to sit down and go, "Oh, it's my movie. I'm the big lead of this movie," and the name comes up and it's misspelled.
You know, all of these movies have commentary tracks with the actors. By actors, I mean, of course, Katrine.
Yeah.
And the guy on the who's moderating these tracks, his name is, I think, his name is what's his name? Oh, go check it out.
It's not Mark Cousins.
Colin Waddell. His name.
Okay, thank God for that.
And he's like, he's like talking to them, what was it like doing this movie? What do you think? And like, she has no idea what these movies are about. I mean, she doesn't understand. Like, I was there and, did my scenes and that was it. Like, and, that's the thing about these movies. Like, people like to approach the actors who were in these movies, but these actors don't have a lot to say, I think, with some of these movies.
Right.
But yeah, she shows up at conventions nowadays, and so she's active. I think she's doing a new horror movie, actually.
Nice.
I'm not sure. I think she's doing a new one.
And this one's nice because The Beyond goes down south to the swampy, voodoo-obsessed bayous of Louisiana, which gives it a lovely. I love a nice Louisiana set horror movie. I do get a big kick out of that. That kind of swampy down south feeling.
You are Liza, aren't you?
Yes.
My name is Emily. I've been looking for you. Leave this place. "60 years ago, everybody in this hotel disappeared. Every last person. A painter called Swede, who lived here, closeted in his room, had found a key.
Tell me, with all those accidents, you think you'll give it up now?
I couldn't do that if I wanted to.
Well, I won't give in.
Yeah, so whereas you could say that's with City, perhaps Fulci was just making up shit as he would go along. Probably, they didn't have a coherent script there. Here, Fulci seems to have some kind of vision here because this one is very artsy. It's the opening with the yellow opening sequence where this guy, this painter, what was his name? He had a strange name. I can't remember what it was, but this guy is basically doing a painting, and these guys, the townsfolk, come into this hotel, and they got torches, I think, and all these things, and they call him an ungodly warlock,
right?
Which is, and then they nail him to the wall, and then they throw. What do they throw at him? Some sort of... It's
got to be acid. It's got to be sulfuric acid or something like that. And this is another one where their mutilation of him is really graphic. I mean, it's really violent and really graphic. It's you see his wrist and you see a nail driven through it. The blood kind of piss out all over the nail. Yeah.
And I think, whereas Argento was known for sort of making violence look beautiful, which is what people say. Oh, he made violence look beautiful. Fulci made violence look really nasty. I mean, he did not glamorize violence at all. If people thought that's what he did,
No.
I don't think he did that at all. He made it look really horrifying.
Yeah. No, especially that other scene in House by the Cemetery, if it's the one I think you mean, where she gets attacked with the poker. That is really...
that is very upsetting.
Yeah.
But the Beyond, this one... Can you... Okay, you can talk about the plot for this one if you can, because I mean, it's essentially you inherit the house from hell. That's essentially the idea of the movie, is that the leading woman inherits this run-down Louisiana hotel, which we see in a flashback, has had this, this horror happen in it where this woman was stabbed, and then the townsfolk, beat, abuse, scar, and nail up the guy who did it in the basement. And then have left the hotel abandoned. She inherits it years later, and she's trying to get it fixed up. As she tries to get it fixed up, various stuff starts happening. There's the book, of course, whose name I can't remember now. The book of something. Which I think also is a Lovecraft thing, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. Each one of these movies is clearly influenced by Lovecraft. But there's some ancient book anyway. That has all the passengers in it and all the rest of it to kind of sort out any hellish goings on. And she's sort of trying to investigate this and look into this once she realizes that the house might be cursed, especially as a blind woman meets her on a bridge and starts to give her all these portentous, like, you must leave the hotel and all this sort of stuff.
We see her at the beginning of the movie actually reading the book.
Yes.
And she saw, I think she saw the Beyond. Something happened there.
Right, exactly. Because people do turn blind. The little girl turns blind. It's not that she was born blind or that it's a medical thing. It's that she has been turned blind by the horror or by, like you say, looking into the abyss or the beyond or whatever.
And I think they suggest that she's a ghost in this movie or something.
Yeah, again, Fulci, just like City and to some extent House, he plays fast and loose with who's alive, who's dead, who's corporeal, who isn't. It's all over the place, really. I mean, even the dog gets, even the seeing eye dog, the blind woman's dog, gets somehow infected by the ghostly spirit.
And isn't that ripping off Argento? Isn't that from Suspiria? I have to be. But this is a scene in Suspiria where this blind guy's walking with a dog, and there are supposed to be witches flying by, and suddenly the dog attacks its own owner.
Right, but I mean, I suppose I don't know whether that is a thing or whether that is just ripped from Argento. I don't know whether it's a thing that spirits can, in some Italian book somewhere, that spirits can possess animals. I mean, I don't know. I don't read into, because I don't believe in ghosts or any of this stuff, I don't read into it. So I don't know about, magics or ghosts or voodoo or anything. I just don't know. No. So I mean, maybe it's a straight Argento rip. I mean, again, it's a very violent, gory, visceral scene. So, and I'm also not one. I mean, I don't want to disappoint the listeners or whatever. I'm also not one for reading a ton of shit into movies either. I much rather talk about film in terms of, what I enjoyed, what I didn't enjoy, what I think works, and what I don't think works. And although maybe these three movies are hampered somewhat by, at moments clunky dialogue. Like any time when in The Beyond the woman is saying, "But this happened and this happened and I saw this happen," and then that roguish guy who she meets in the French Quarter and then goes back, and he's just hanging around with a leather jacket. I forget his name.
The character played by David Warbeck.
Is he the roguish guy? The clunky dialogue thing, whenever she says, "I just saw this and I just did that and this is happening and whatever," he's like, "Don't be so stupid," it's completely dismissed. You have to get past some of that, and it is the least successful thing. I don't think the plots are the least successful thing. The dialogue is probably the least successful thing.
I think there are some pretty funny dialogue in this movie. But I think this one, it's strange. Like, this one has more of a plot than City, But this one feels more like it's all over the place than City of Living Dead. It's strange, like even the set pieces are like, wait, why are there spiders attacking someone all of a sudden? What's happening with this? What's happening in the morgue scene when the girl sees her mother being destroyed by acid? Like there are things here that just gets a little too nonsensical for me. Actually, this is the one I don't watch The Beyond very often, to be honest with you. This is the one where I'm like, okay, there's stuff here I like, but there's a lot here I just don't really get. You know?
Right.
So,
yeah, I can't pretend that I understood any of the films. But I can tell you that I liked all of them and enjoyed, because I think that I have something, I grew up with a very kind of surreal sense of humor, and I'm used to kind of non sequitur, stream of consciousness comedy. So when I start to see horror movies like this, or Suspiria, which didn't make any sense to me either particularly, I can kind of go with it because the visuals are arresting enough that I can kind of, keep going.
Hey! I mean, that's really what movies should be. I mean, movies it's a visual medium, so of course it should be. It should really be about the visuals. I mean,
it depends to me. I mean, to me, you're either telling me a story or you're showing me stuff I haven't seen before, or you're doing both. In the case of someone like Terry Gilliam, who does both. But in the case of Fulci, I'm not going in to learn great truths or be told some incredible story. I'm going in to be like, what imaginative, dreamlike, ghost-like stuff can you throw at me and that I can embrace and enjoy?
Sure, absolutely. This one originally, you said these are all like ghost movies. This one, the ending to this movie, where they're running around in the hospital and there are zombies everywhere.
Yes.
That was not in the original script. That was added by the German company that financed this movie. They told Fulci, like, look, you gotta have zombies in there.
Right.
The Fulci, like, zombies are a big thing right now. So that they added that in there. And I have to say, that climax is fucking horrible. I'm sorry, but that scene when he's trying to shoot the zombies and he shoots them in their bellies, even though he can clearly shoot them in their heads. Like, I was watching this movie with a friend of mine, and he was just sitting there like, okay, you shot one in the head, and I keep shooting them in the head. And instead, David Warbeck is just shooting them in their bellies. My friend got so pissed. Like, God damn it, you fucking idiot.
What gets you pissed about it is that you see him shoot one in the head, and it clearly goes down. And then the next wave of zombies shows up, and you think, oh, okay, so he's going to know now.
Yeah.
And he hasn't learned.
No.
No.
that whole climax, I think it gets a little ridiculous. And by the way, did you notice that in the scene when they're in the elevator and the elevator door closes, he's going to load his gun? Did you notice that he's putting the bullets in the pipe?
Oh, no, I didn't see that. I didn't notice that
it's
at all.
hysterical.
No.
Like, he's looking... First of all, David Warbeck, who's, by the way, a real comedian, he puts... Not an actual comedian, but like he's really... he's very comical in real life.
Right.
Well, he was. He's dead.
He was. He's dead.
He's putting the bullet in the pipe. And you can see, like, he looks into the camera. He knows he's doing it intentionally. Right. And you can see, like, Katrina, who's holding onto the child, like, oh my God, she's supposed to be sad. But you can tell she's starting to crack up. Like, she noticed that he's putting the bullets into the pipe. Right. So rewatch The Beyond. Like, go to that scene. Watch The Beyond, and if you look at that scene, like, it's hysterical. Like, it's a big goof. In fact, I watched this movie with the commentary track. Right. And David Warbeck, who passed away, I think, like, a couple of weeks after the commentary track. I don't know. I think he's drunk when they recorded this, because
he died in 97.
Yeah, and he's hysterical in this commentary track. He's just like, all right, here's the movie, and here's what we shot, and here's the scene. And I look at this, like, and there's an actor in this movie whose name is Al Cliver. You might recognize him from Zombi. He's the guy with the beard. He's and it's hysterical when Al Cliver shows up. David Warbeck says, "Oh, and here's Al Cliver. This is the dumbest actor on the planet." And then Katrina's like, "What?" And David Warbeck is like, "Yeah, he told me. He walked up to me and said, 'Hello, I'm Al Cliver. I'm the dumbest actor around.'" It's hysterical. On the commentary track, David Warbeck is just like, all right, I heard it. Like he walks, like the character walks away from the hospital, and David Warbeck is like, all right, I have enough of this zombie shit. I gotta get home and get drunk. And
yeah, it is David Warbeck who I was talking about. You know, the cool guy who keeps saying, "Don't be ridiculous." You know, every time she says that anything's going on.
He's also in the Fulci movie, The Black Cat. He's also in that. But yeah, the funny thing about the actor Al Cliver, who's in Zombie, and he's also in The Black Cat, Al Cliver. And
he should have stuck his two names together and just made it one name, just made Al Cliver. I am Al Cliver.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Black Cat is set in England, okay?
Right.
And Al Cliver is playing a British constable. He's dressed he looks like a Monty Python character, you know, like one of those cops. And now the thing is, you think they would have gotten a British actor to dub him over, right? But no, they got the same guy who dubbed him in Zombie.
Right.
And this guy is doing a British accent. It's hysterical. You have to see The Black Cat just for that.
It's
Al Cliver dressed like a British police officer, and he's like, "Oh, hello, what's going on here?" I was dying of laughter when I saw that.
No, I mean, but the other thing, you know, the great thing about these movies is that Fulci actually comes to America and makes these films. It's not like shot in Italy for America. It's the location shooting is all in America, so it has certainly the Beyond has a nice authentic feel to it.
Yeah, I mean, he shot. He made New York Ripper. That was shot in New York.
Yeah.
But so the Beyond. I love the ending to the Beyond. I think the ending is great. That they're in what I think is the afterlife. I think. Or
well, yeah. I mean, my feeling is that they're trapped in hell and or purgatory, and the zombies are on their way, because it kind of closes in on their face, and then you hear the noise of the zombies, like they will be coming out of the darkness, you know?
Yeah, and apparently all those people you see lying on the floor there, they're all homeless people that they got.
Oh, right, okay.
And I think they paid them with alcohol or something. So, yeah, the Beyond it's people love this movie. I mean, there's some people who say this is like
this is his classic. Right.
Yeah, this...
it's between this and Zombie, or Zombie Flesh Eaters.
Yeah, Tarantino re-released this movie in 98, I think, and there's in this booklet I have, there's an introduction by Eli Roth.
Oh, for fuck's sake, Roth, get off every bloody horror book and documentary going. If you hadn't... Look, you've made one film that's passably watchable and then a bunch of shit. Stop it, Roth. Stop it. Go away. Get off my screen. Get out of my documentaries and stop writing forwards for books for people you don't know anything about.
But I love horror movies. I love movies, you know?
Hey, I love movies. And fuck off, Roth.
I love... It sounds kind of like... have you heard Mark Kermode's impersonation of Hack Snyder?
Yes. Hi, I'm Hack Snyder.
Hack Snyder. Yeah. Yeah, but the thing... He also, when he talked about Rob Zombie, he said, like... Rob Zombie is an idiot because he's friends with Quentin Tarantino. And it's the same thing with Eli Roth. He's an idiot. He's friends with Tarantino. They're all idiots.
Well, then it's not so much that they're idiots as that they're not particularly talented, and they don't... I mean, Zombie, at least when he makes his own movies, tries to put something in it of a individual touch. I don't include Halloween in his own movies because they're not his movies. I mean, you know, in the few movies that he's made that are individually his, he's at least tried to put his own touch in. It doesn't mean that his own touch is any fucking good or worth watching. I just mean at least he's trying to put something artistic, whereas Roth is just a hack. I mean, there's just nothing about him worth
I have a real problem with these sort of fanboy filmmakers. You know, Neil Marshall, who I like Dog Soldiers and I like The Descent and all that, but Doomsday, I mean, I thought that was just
I can't comment. I haven't seen it yet, so.
No, but that was like a fanboy movie. Like, oh, I'm making I'm ripping off Escape from New York. I'm ripping off Mad Max, and it's like that's all I see. I'm just seeing like ripping off, other movies. That's all I don't see an original,
Yeah, I mean, I might give him a break on that just because I really do love The Descent and I really do love Dog Soldiers, and I think both of those were movies we hadn't seen before. It's interesting how we've subsequently seen quite a few movies like that since, but I do think that there is something fairly worthwhile and not original, but certainly interesting and different in Dog Soldiers and The Descent. I've yet to watch Doomsday. I know the Doc likes it very much. And I know it has its supporters. I will make, as I always do, I'll make my own mind up. But
okay, sure.
But no, I couldn't comment on it. I agree with you though in terms of Roth and Snyder and people like that. I have no time for that. I just have no time for them, and I am having more and more fun, certainly with action and horror, which are now my two big loves in terms of movie watching. I'm having too much fun going back to the 80s and the 70s and seeing everything that's available. I actually really love Italian schlock movie making. I know that it's schlock, and I know that they're B-movies, but I mean, I think they're very inventive, and I think they're very well put together, and I think that Fulci, like Argento, is at the topper end of the scale. It's at the higher end of the scale.
There are a lot of these filmmakers who were not very well respected back in their day, and now they're looked back on as sort of, geniuses. So.
Yeah, completely. I mean, so far, City and the Beyond, I would definitely recommend people watch. We can move on to House if you like, unless you have any more.
Oh, have you been to see Mrs. Peterson?
What do you say to a widow who finds out her husband butchered his mistress and then took his own life?
That's where Peterson hanged himself. That iron rail.
Take me away from him. I can't stand it anymore.
Bob, I'm here behind you. You've come. However, I told you very clearly.
I tried, but my mother wouldn't listen. She said Daddy had to do some research here.
You shouldn't have come, Bob. You shouldn't have.
Why would a man like him slaughter the woman he loved and then hang himself?
Well, I don't know. Human mind.
Yeah, a research project on suicide with a researcher commits suicide.
Don't go inside, whoever you are. Don't go inside.
Someone's in here, Mommy! There's someone down there! Get the door open!
Where's the axe? Where's the axe? Bob! Keep away from the door!
Yep, I will.
Don't worry, Bobby. I'll get you out.
Why? Who's there? Who's in this house?
Dr. Freudstein!
Bob!
No, Bob. You should have listened to what I said.
House by the Cemetery. I'm just going to say this right now. This is my favorite of these movies, actually.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting because It's probably my least favorite, but okay. I mean,
I'm not surprised.
Okay. It's mainly because of the little boy and the acting of the woman constantly screaming, and the fact that it just didn't grip me in the same way that these other two had. But anyway, carry on. Please talk about it. I mean, I still liked it.
This one is. I had these movies on Blu-ray, and this one comes with an Italian audio track. So the little boy's voice is very different. It's not as it's not mommy, it's not that kind of voice.
Mommy, I found a doll and my new girlfriend's a ghost, and
I actually think actually the funny thing, the Blu-ray has an intro with the actor where he says, "I want to apologize for the voice. That's not my voice."
Right.
He says I was dubbed over by a female actress, pretending to be a little boy. But I think the kid actually, the problem is the dubbing. I think the kid gives a completely fine performance. I don't think, he's, that's not his voice,
Oh, no, so as kids go, he's no different than the guy and the kid in The Shining. So.
Yeah, but you know what? I've seen this movie so many times. I can take that English dub. I'm a man. I can take it.
Yeah, I have to say to people looking to watch this movie, and it is a good movie. It's just only my least favorite compared to the other two, but... you do have to strap yourself in and be aware that the screaming can get a little bit annoying, and the little kids' constant "Mammy" can be annoying.
Yeah, this one is very strange compared to the other movies here because
this is more a ghost story. It's a real ghost, like a New England ghost story. It's got shades of Edgar Allan Poe and all sorts.
Yeah, it's strange because you have Zombie, and you got City, and you got The Beyond, which all have these sort of similarities. They're all kind of about hordes of zombies basically taking over the world. This one is sort of first seems like a slasher, then it seems like a giallo at times, then it's like a haunted house movie, and then it turns out that the killer is, well, spoilers, it's a zombie basically. It's sort of a mix mash of different movies that Fulci has made before. So, and I'm not sure in which order these movies came, if this one was made before The Beyond or after. I wonder. Well, anyway, this one.
When I've looked it up, the order has always been that this is the last movie.
Okay, so this one is this one has a different pace. There's actually, at the beginning we get some kills, where of course a typical horror movie opening with a girl and a guy making out, in this, of course, in the worst house possible, next to a cemetery, and she gets killed. A very good kill with the knife going for the head, good kill. And then after that, it's a lot of... Actually, we get a little bit of character development, actually, which is different. It's more focused on the characters here. And I kind of... this movie has a different tone as well. This one movie has kind of a strange, melancholic tone. It's... because you have this sort of ghostly girl showing up in the movie as well. And she... this one, it's sort of... When we get to the ending of this movie... which seems to be, the boy escapes. We see the boy escaping, but then the boy walks off with the little girl, and
the boy escapes into the afterlife, or is dragged into the afterlife.
The ending suggests that they're basically, or maybe he was killed, maybe he died, and now he's a ghost, and he's going to wander the earth, maybe.
Again, you've got a similar setup to The Beyond in terms of there is a haunted house and or building under which there is some sort of gateway to something. But
this ending, I think you can interpret as either bad or good. Maybe he's dead and now he's going to,
Now, am I right that at the end of this movie there's a quote from M.R. James?
Yeah, and it's a strange quote.
Right, but he writes ghost stories. M.R. James wrote a lot of ghost stories.
And I know you say we shouldn't be perhaps analyzing these movies too much, but the quote says something about, we don't know if monsters are children or children are monsters. And I'm like, huh.
Right.
Exactly. You're going to make me think, Fulci.
Yeah. Great. I was enjoying it until you put that up. And then I was like, oh, okay.
And I'm like, so you're trying to say something here, Fulci. So, yeah, the ending is very... So this movie, it's got me thinking. It's got me wondering. And, in fact, when I had a Fulci marathon with a friend of mine, he actually hated City and The Beyond. He thought those movies were stupid. It didn't make any sense. He actually liked this one with me. Actually, I turned to him and did you like this one as well? I was like, yeah, I actually kind of like this one. It's strange. We both like this one. I don't know. Is it because I'm Swedish, we're Swedish, and this movie has that kind of depressing Swedish movie tone that we all kind of actually like? Because
yeah, I mean, it is slower.
This movie is kind of like if Ingmar Bergman made a splatter movie in the 80s or something.
Yeah, I mean,
it
has a Lovecraftian, although less so, I think, to some regards, but it has a Lovecraftian, a Poe, a M.R. James, and like you say, a kind of European pace to it. Yeah, and I think that put all those things together, and you get an interesting movie. I just don't know how. Maybe I was overdosing on Fulci at this point, but
yeah, it's a weird. It's not the same kind of mood or atmosphere that you get in the other movies. This one is so somber and sad, and I love.
Well, I think because there's a family involved, and it's a little bit more. And she doesn't want to be there. She's being brought up here, and then you find out that she's taking
pills or something.
She's taking pills, so she's not. She's not exactly a happy bunny anyway. He's her man, Dr. Norman Boyle, has showed up to figure out what's going on or what's been going on with Dr. Freudstein.
Great name, by the way, Freudstein.
Yeah, Freudstein. It's actually pronounced Freudstein. Sorry, I keep wanting to do the Mel Brooks joke.
so they combined Sigmund Freud with Frankenstein.
Yeah. But no, it's like in Young Frankenstein ways, like it's pronounced Frankenstein. Well, is it pronounced Froderick? No, Frederick. So it's not Frederick Frankenstein? I'm so sorry.
That's funny. So at the beginning, we see the main character, and of course we see, a cameo by Lucio Fulci himself. He always makes a cameo in these movies.
Yes, he does. Professor Muller.
Always playing authority figures. That tells you something about Fulci.
Yeah, he was a professor in this one. He was a doctor in City, and he's a doctor in The Beyond as well, I think.
And
he's a town clerk. Sorry.
Yeah, and he's what is he in Zombie? He's the guy who tells the main character to. Basically, he's the J. Jonah Jameson or something like that. You know the. Right. Yeah. But that by the way, that's where his cameo in Zombie is hysterical because Fulci gets to act. He's sitting there did you see the way he's talking to the phone? He holds the phone to his face, and then he throws the phone next to his other hand, like, I'm acting. It's like a good actor. And he's got a New York accent, which is just hysterical. Like, he tells the main character in Zombie, like, hey, before you go out, don't get too cocky. Like, he's got this New York accent.
Well, he's overdubbed by Edward Mannix. I don't know if that's who always overdubs him, but...
Yeah, but it's very funny. But... Yeah, it's the House by the Cemetery. This one, there's some stuff in this movie which I don't quite understand because at some point a babysitter shows up, but
the babysitter's a ghost.
Oh, she is. Okay,
isn't she?
I'm not sure now because she's. They can all see her, and the
But I thought the babysitter was in on it though, because the babysitter is. There is a sequence at the beginning where the young boy sees a shop mannequin lose its head, but gorily.
It's the ghost girl who sees it, not the boy, the ghost girl. And
I thought it was the boy who saw the mannequin lose it.
No, it was the ghost girl.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'm misremembering. Okay, yeah, so the ghost girl sees a shop mannequin lose its head, but then blood pour out. And when we meet the babysitter... That's who the babysitter is, the shop mannequin.
Yeah, the same big eyebrows. The strange is that because after the killer of this movie, Dr. Freudstein has killed the woman, who was the woman that he kills?
What, at the very beginning?
Real estate.
Oh,
the real estate. Yeah.
Real estate, right.
Yeah, because the next morning, she's cleaning up the blood, the babysitter. Yeah. And this is a weird scene. And then the mother walks in, it's like,
I'm making coffee. Yeah, she goes, I'm making coffee. I think the babysitter is in on it.
Yeah, but it's strange. Like, she doesn't notice the blood, I think, or something, or I don't know. But then it's like, do you want some coffee? And then the babysitter stands up and looks at her, and Fulci zooms in on the babysitter. It's so strange. Like, what is going on here with this babysitter? And then it's like, because I've read some theories about this movie. Okay, some analysis. It's like
sure, go right ahead.
Like the professor had a relationship with the babysitter or something, like things like that. Like there was something going on beneath the surface of this movie that we didn't see.
Right.
Because in this act, it's weird. The professor seems to know what's going on because he hears he has this tape at the end of the movie. He's listening to this tape of the guy who I think committed suicide before, and he's talking about what's going on.
Well, they think he's committed suicide, but he hasn't, has he? Or
I think he did. They talk about the fact that he hanged himself or something. They say, "Oh, this is where he hanged himself." They say.
Right, but he comes back as a zombie at the end, doesn't he?
No. There was a. That's Freudstein you're talking about. That's Dr. Freudstein, the guy who's been living in the basement, been killing people.
Right, is that not who he's been investigating?
No. The thing is, there was another guy who was staying there and was investigating.
Right, okay, yeah, no, I remember now. Okay, yeah, carry on.
Yeah, and he's listening to this tape, and the guy's going like, I've discovered these horrible things and all. And then the guy, the professor, the main character, burns the tape. And I'm like, wait, what's going on here? What does he burn the tape? What is this? The character, the professor character, is so. Is he supposed to be like a more mischievous character? Like he's supposed to be more of a darker character here? Like,
well, and also at one point, doesn't he? Like when they get attacked by the bats.
Oh yeah.
He lets her get attacked by the bats and run through the basement for ages before he tries to help. He just literally stands there in the dark and watches her run, going "Ah!" with bats in her hair.
Yeah, I'm wondering, was he discovering, like, because the thing about the Dr. Freudstein character is that he basically was a guy who discovered immortality. He's somehow discovered a way to stay alive for, I don't know, how many years.
Right.
And probably killed his own wife and daughter because they're ghosts, as we see in the movie. Which we don't know at first. We don't know who this little girl is, but then we find out at the end of the movie, oh no, it's the Freudsteins. Because, like, he's...
Oh no, it's the Freudsteins.
Yeah, the Freudsteins. So, yeah, this... And I think this movie has got some pretty good suspenseful scenes. Again, Fulci rips off Argento with the ice. You know the ice in the basement? You know, remember the ice is the little boy sees?
Yes.
Yeah. That's from Suspiria. You get the same ice in the window that you get in Suspiria. So, and I don't understand ice because the zombie doesn't have any eyes, so that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But I think this movie has got it's got a really odd atmosphere. There's something about this movie that I keep coming back to this movie. There's something about this movie that I'm trying to figure it out somehow. It's unlike The Beyond, which I sort of understand what's going on in The Beyond, but overall, there's just a lot of nonsensical stuff in that movie.
No, I mean, I know what you mean. The something about House begs you to kind of look a little deeper into it because there seems to be something going on that you can't quite grasp. I think that it is a kind of collage movie of a bunch of things from New England and East Coast America horror stories, and Irish horror stories and various other things, kind of put together into one movie about a haunted house and a doctor and a this and a that. And I think that the most effective thing and the most successful thing about House by the Cemetery is the way that, not only do you get obviously the image of the photograph with the little girl in the window of the house, but also the idea that the way the house is filmed and the way it's filmed, it looks very much like one of those paintings you would see, one of those kind of slightly gothic, slightly mysterious New England home style paintings, and the whole movie feels to me like a ghost story book and a New England painting kind of put together and made life, like you say, it's not so successful with the plot in terms of being followable in any generic sense, but
but I think the movie has got. I think the fact that it is a slower pace, the fact that there ain't so much actually happening in this movie. I think because in the middle there's a lot of build up and all that things, and I like that. I think that's it's unusual for Fulci to be kind of restrained for a great deal of this movie. It's I don't know, Fulci, did he have more time in this movie? But anyway, what I like about the fact that it is so strange and so unique and weird, and the fact that it has that European feel that kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's probably to some extent, whereas the first two are evocative and atmospheric, I feel like House by the Cemetery ramps that up a notch and almost takes down, although there are some very violent scenes in the film, it takes down the... In fact, each one of these movies loses the kind of graphic content gradually throughout the three movies. The City of the Living Dead is almost entirely, zombie attacks, graphic content, kills, murders, gore, maggots, whatever it is. The Beyond has a lot, but not as much. And then House by the Cemetery really has, apart from the ending sequence, it really only has those two major scenes, which is the scene where the woman is beaten to death and stabbed to death with a poker or an iron bar, and the other one with the throat slashing, which is just unbearable.
Yeah, and by the way, you notice that the killer of this movie, the zombie, has one normal human hand and another one that's completely rotten. I don't know if you noticed that. That normal hand in those murder scenes is actually the little girl doing those killings. She said it herself, the actress. Like, there's an interview with the actress on the Blu-ray, and she said that. And I was like, why? Why did they get the little girl to do that? That's very strange. I don't know why they did that, but... the kills. I mean,
my assumption was that the ghost girl was a malevolent presence. I didn't think she was a kind-hearted presence.
I don't think so. I think that the girl was supposed to. She was warning them. I mean, she was telling I told you, Bob, to stay away from this house. She tells him that.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I got the. I don't know why. I think at the beginning of the movie, I got the feeling that she was probably the killer, and then at the end of the movie, I then thought, no, she's just a little girl. But I think it took me the movie to kind of come round to her being...
Yeah. The music in this movie was, again, not composed by Fabio Frizzi. This was done by the guy, Walter Risati. What's his name? Yeah, and I love the score for this movie. It's not Fabio Frizzi, but it's great. It's a great,
Yeah,
again,
Walter Risati, yeah.
Yeah, and great. This one, again, different from the other scores. This is a very sad score. The main theme is very sort of... kind of depressing theme, very sad, I think, and kind of a lullaby theme. I noticed they play kind of a lullaby theme in the movie. So, yeah, it's a movie with children in it, unlike the other movies. This is a movie that sort of, it's.
No, I mean, I understand why the three films are lumped together, but this film really, apart from the it's a haunted building. Apart from the fact that it's a haunted building, it really doesn't fit with the other two at all.
Yeah, and that's what's so strange about this. This is called because I talked to you about this, but this is called, you said, let's do the Gates of Hell trilogy. And I told you, well, it's barely a trilogy. It's not really a trilogy.
No, it has the same actress in it. It features hauntings and or gateways to hell as a MacGuffin throughout all three films.
City of the Living Dead has a gate. They talk about Gates of Hell in that movie. They talk about the Beyond, which is basically the Gates of Hell. But no, do they say Gates of Hell in the Beyond?
They don't say Gates of Hell, but they say that it's built on an opening to the underworld or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all the same kind of thing.
Yeah, they say. Oh no, they say it's one of the seven. Here is one of the 7 doors to hell.
Right. That's
that's something that actually happened. Just to go back to the Beyond for a second, when it was released in the U.S., it was retitled "The 7 Doors of Death," and they recut it and they rescored it. It was awful what they did with that. So but this movie, House by the Cemetery, they don't actually mention anything like that. There is no talk about this is the gate of hell or anything like that. In the end, it's basically what they're saying is okay, the house is haunted, and there's a kind of zombie, kind of like a guy who's been keeping himself alive for centuries, and his guts are now maggots. It's not real. It's not at all. I don't get it. Why was this movie a Gates of Hell trilogy? I don't get it. It would be better to to take Zombie and put that together with City and the Beyond.
Well, Zombie already has a Fulci direct. I mean, Zombie has several sequels, not all done by Fulci. Fulci does the initial sequel, which is titled Zombie 3 in Italy. There is also a Zombie 4 and 5 in Italy, directed by 2 different people.
Yeah, a Zombie 3, which I own on DVD. Fulci directed. He was very ill during the making of that movie, so he only directed Isn't
it Mattei who does some of the other Bruno
Mattei, and Yeah, Fulci said that there's one thing about Zombie 3 that he's proud of, and that is the flying zombie head that comes out of a fridge in Zombie 3.
Sure.
Because you get flying zombie heads. So he said he's proud of that. But Zombie 3 is a fun flick, you know. It's worth a look. But then you have Zombie 4 and 5, which Zombie 5 it's not really, it was never part of that series. It was originally called Killer Birds, and then it was changed to Zombie 5 Killer Birds.
Right.
Even though there are no killer birds. It's got birds, and it's got a scene at the beginning of the movie where someone is attacked by birds, but after that, it's got zombies in it, so it's got nothing to do. And it's got a blind Robert Vaughn in it, for some reason. By the way, I just want to shout out to the Cinema Snob, who actually did reviews of all those Bruno Mattei movies. I got him to thank for introducing me to all those Bruno Mattei movies.
No, I mean, you're right about how it doesn't... And, you know, again, this is just a loose, I think, probably fan and or marketing people created trilogy. I don't think that Lucio Fulci made it as a trilogy. And, the only reason I wanted to do this versus Zombie was merely to do with the fact that I have, on multiple podcasts, mentioned Zombie, talked about Zombie. And also I wanted to kind of see some movies that I hadn't seen before and get into them. So I'm kind of glad we did it, but I do agree with you, it doesn't hold together necessarily as a trilogy.
No, I mean, it's barely a trilogy. In fact, City of Living Dead was titled Gates of Hell in the U.S.
It was, actually. Yes. That's where the Gates of Hell trilogy comes from,
Yeah, so, I mean, this was Fulci's, let's see, after House, Fulci did, what was he did? I think it was...
He did The Ripper.
Yes, which was sort of a return to the giallo genre for him. But I have to say, I mean, the best thing about New York Ripper is the fact that the killer is talking like a duck. That's the the amazing thing. He goes in the phone, and it's like, "Hey, chief, a guy who talked like a duck just called us," and the cop is like a duck. Yeah, but that movie is very sleazy. It's a very sleazy movie. And it doesn't have the score. It doesn't have that Fabio Frizzi score. It's got a weird 80s TV cop theme.
But it's also the other reason why I guess some of these are thrown together, because they have more of a stylistic, connection as well.
Yeah, and even Lucio, there are even Lucio Fulci fans who don't really like New York Ripper. People think that movie is far too graphic, and just some people even say that movie is what do you say, misogynistic, which
what, an Italian filmmaker? Surely not.
Yeah, I mean, Fulci, what I read about him, he had a difficult relationship with women, apparently. He really hated his wife or something, I read somewhere. And I don't know how much he hated women. I think it was that was something you did in Italian horror movies. Of course you would have women being killed. But I mean, New York Ripper has a great thing. The great thing about New York Ripper, it's got a killer that talks like a duck, and that's kind of really it. I mean, it would be blasphemous for me to say I want to see a remake of New York Ripper, but I kind of want to see that movie done better, with that duck killer. I want that maniac cop, that kind of feel, because I don't really get a William Lustig movie feel. That's what I want from New York Ripper, and you don't really get that.
No,
I feel. And after that, Fulci, that's when his career started going downhill. I mean, after that, he did that fantasy movie Conquest, and he did a bunch of other stuff, Murder Rock, and Cat in the Brain, where he plays himself. So, in which I've heard is supposed to be really bad and stuff like that, And he was supposed to direct a movie called Waxwork in the 90s. It was supposed to be produced by Dario Argento, but he died, Fulci, so he never got to make that.
Right.
And Fulci, he never really, he started visiting Fangoria conventions and stuff like that in the in the 90s. And he was really surprised by the fact that he had a big following. He was really shocked by it. He showed up at Fangoria. I was like, what the hell? I got fans?
Right, yeah.
Because he just, he didn't really care that much for these movies. He was just, he said it himself, Fulci didn't really care about the horror genre. Like, he didn't really want to make those movies. He wanted to make other films. But, you know, these probably were the scripts he got from the, you know, whatever company he was working for. Like, these are the movies you should make. So he just made those movies. Yeah, but I have to say Fulci, you know, he's... if you look at the Italian directors, I mean, you got Argento, you got Bava, and Fulci... I guess he's like, you know, if you make like a list of the best ones, like from 10 to, you know, number 1, I guess he's like number 3. You know, you got Fulci, then you got Argento, and then I would say Bava, number 1 in terms of, you know, the best Italian directors. Like,
but
like
I mean, they're all, to me, they're all very different, and they all give me completely different feelings and reactions. They're not, you know, in a weird way. I'm going to put in a Fulci movie probably before I put in an Argento and a Bava movie, although I see the technical brilliance in an Argento or Bava movie.
How many Bava movies have you seen?
Couple of handful.
Because I know you said you've seen the, what was it called? The Bay of Blood,
right.
Twitch of the Death Nerve. But, I mean, I got a whole bunch of Bava movies on Blu-ray. I like, you know,
well, they're all on Netflix still, or they were.
Okay. Okay. But I got, you know, Black Sunday, Black Sabbath, and they're awesome movies. Like atmosphere, and they're all different. Like, the thing about Bava, unlike, let's say, Argento and maybe even Fulci, is like, Bava never really repeated himself. Like, he never, like, made the same movie over and over again. He made different movies. And unlike Argento and Fulci, like, Bava, even in his, like, late career, like, his last movies, even they were good. Like, they weren't, like, his last movies, like Shock and Rabid Dogs. Right. Actually, I haven't seen Rabid Dogs, but they're great. They're great movies. Like, even though Shock doesn't have the cinematography of his earlier movies, it looks like it could have been directed by anyone. It's still a great movie. So Bava, I would say, is the best one. I'm not that crazy about Argento, actually. He really repeats himself. I mean, I like Deep Red, and I like, you know, Suspiria and Inferno and Phenomena, and Tenebrae, but like, and Opera, I like that one. But aside from that, you know, his career is kind of spotty, I'd say. Right. Like, and as for Fulci, I mean, like, you know, he's got a whole bunch of other great movies, like Don't Torture a Duckling, A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, like these Giallo movies he's also made, which people should definitely check out. And he made also a movie called The Psychic. Have you seen that one?
I haven't, no. I don't even own that one.
No, that one stars the chick from Scanners. What's her name? Yeah. I don't remember that one very well, but I think it was pretty good. So he made Giallos as well. And, I mean, Don't Torture Duckling is completely different from his zombie movies. It's like you read some, I think, a mail or something, like a comment from someone who mentioned an older Fulci movie. What was it called or something?
Beatrice Sensi.
Yeah, he made those movies are very different from...
Yeah, I know. We were going to do Don't Torture a Duckling on the B-movie bargain bin, but we felt it wasn't B-movie enough because it's too good a movie. Yeah. No, I mean, I would, off the back of these 3 movies, I would definitely suggest to our listeners and audience that if they haven't checked them out, to check out these 3 films, definitely. I would also suggest you check them out uncut, but understand you are going to need a fairly strong resolve to get through them. I mean, I don't watch films like this and ironically laugh at the makeup effects or anything like that. I get involved in these movies, and therefore the makeup effects to me work every time. Some people might, though, laugh at them. I don't know. So maybe I'm being overblown.
I think people probably would laugh at the dubbing.
Right. No. I mean, yeah, but you have to kind of just take that as read. Like, yes, that's going to happen because it's an Italian language movie. You know what I mean? I mean, apart from Christopher George, I mean, I think probably City has the least problematic dubbing. But The Beyond and certainly House by the Cemetery has way more dubbing. But no, I mean, I enjoy all of them. I think House by the Cemetery is the odd one out and probably the one that I'm going to put in the least. But that's just me.
And I think do you feel like we need more movies like this? Like, I want to see more, like, atmospheric nasty kind of movies like this. I want to see more like that.
But the thing is, dude, is I think they think they're making them. I think they think that with the Insidious and the Haunting in Connecticut's and the fucking Conjuring and all that, I think they think they're making them. I just don't think they're very good at making them anymore. So when you say, like, do we need them? Yes, we do, but we need them done by someone who actually has an understanding of atmosphere. I mean, you know, people can say what they like about the remakes that are coming out, and I know some have their likers and some have their haters, and of course I'm one of the haters. But every time I've even seen either a glimpse of them or, alas, a full movie of them, and the same goes for the Thing remake, as the Dawn of the Dead remake, as the Friday the 13th remake. They all forget the tension, they all forget the atmosphere, they all forget the key component that makes the original movie great. And that's the problem with modern horror, is it forgets to do the tension. And I did that Profondo Cinema on the Friday the 13th remake, and Axel actually went, well, I don't actually watch any of these movies for them to be scary. And I'm like, well, that's fine for him, but I find that kind of sad. Why watch a horror movie then if they're not meant to be scary?
Yeah, well, there's also the fun horror movies like Fright Night or Return of the Living Dead or Reanimated.
Right, but even Fright Night has moments, especially in the makeup, especially in those large-mouthed vampires and things, where it's fairly skin-crawly and fairly weird.
Yeah, although I have to say, like, Fright Night was the first horror movie I saw as a kid where I didn't hide behind the couch. Right. It was the first one, like, oh, this is a fun movie. Like, I didn't think it was that scary.
No, you're right. You've got your Evil Dead 2s, you've got your Reanimators, you've got your Fright Nights, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not dismissing those either. But even they have artistic ability, all the way up to 11.
I know. I have a friend of mine who doesn't like funny horror movies. I was like, you gotta watch Evil Dead 2. It's a fun movie. And he's like, what? Is it a comedy? I don't like like horror comedies. Like, she doesn't like those kind of movies. Like, she doesn't think it meshed together very well. Right. But that's a matter of taste,
But I don't even think that something like the Friday the 13th remake or the Texas Chainsaw remake or the Dawn of the Dead remake is trying to be a comedy horror. I think they're trying to be horror movies, and they're not very good horror movies. No. So, that's my problem. Anyway.
So the Italians need to get back to making horror movies, okay?
Yeah, well, then I think the Spanish have taken it up, because I think the other thing is that movies like the Wreck series are really, really good for what they are, I'm not a fan of the found footage genre, but of all the found footage films I've seen, Wreck 1 is one of my favorites, hands down. And
yeah, that was great. And the Wreck 4, we talked about that before, on the Google Hangout. Looks great.
The biggest mistake that European horror directors seem to make is they come to America. I mean, look at Arja since he left France. I know you didn't like High Tension by your comment earlier, but I thought
it was okay. It was okay. I
liked High Tension, and I thought him coming to America really ruined it. And I hope that the makers of the Wreck don't do the same thing.
I saw, I rewatched World War C recently. Right. And I was like, some people were like, this movie is so scary, and it's like there's so many zombies running around, and I was like,
World War Z is terrible.
But it's like, it's not scary. Like, Brad Pitt looks like he's sleepwalking for the whole thing, and the zombies just look like CGI things.
Yeah, it's a hipster scarf on.
And then I saw the trailer.
Can't be afraid by anyone wearing a hipster scarf.
No, and then I saw the trailer for Wreck 4. It's like, this is like World War C done right. When you see the zombies attacking, the infected attacking people, like, this is what it should be. It's nasty, gore, and it's intense.
So, but no, I agree with you. There is an issue, but I would suggest that rather than necessarily, I would certainly bang the drum for any Spanish horror or Italian horror that comes out, definitely. But I would say go back, always go back and check this stuff out and see where your limits are, see what it is that you like and where you stand. I personally love stuff like this, but equally can watch something, wacky and weird like Reanimator. So each to their own. 20 years ago or 15 years ago, I never would have been able to watch these movies all the way through because the gore would have sickened me. So the idea that I can now sit through, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, we all had those movies when we were kids. Like, I can watch this, but now we know so much about special effects anyway, so we kind of study them more.
But there were some real bits. There was one bit where it was like, I think it may have been the dog kill, where he like rips off a side of her head, and it looks like you see the bone and the ear and the gore, and I mean, it's really, Yeah, and then the throat cutting was just, you know, it really looks like it's right down to the bone. It's not like a kind of, it's not one of those effects where you go, oh, isn't it a cool effect? You watch it and you go, oh, fuck, he's hacking his throat up. You know, like it's not.
Yeah, there are a couple of times I watched, Zombie 2 actually as well recently. I rewatched that movie, and there are a couple of times when they shoot the zombies in their heads, and you can tell like it's just a little bit of blood.
Sure.
You're like, okay. But yeah, I think the gore holds up pretty well. Perhaps better so than, let's say, even in Romero's Dawn of the Dead. I think I watched that movie recently, and I looked at some of the gore. I was like, I don't know. It looks a little bit like I don't know. Some of it looks a little phony.
Well, I think the problem with those movies, to some extent, is that I've seen them too much to be really kind of critical or have the right opinion of what the gore looks like, because in my mind those three movies are relatively tame, but then when I start to think about it, I'm like, no, in Day of the Dead a guy gets his head ripped off, like clean off, with his eyeballs pulled out, and then obviously he gets his guts, so Rhodes gets his guts pulled out, and that's pretty grotesque. But because I've seen it so much, it doesn't really affect me. But you think of the bucket of gore that Bub picks up and eats and chews on in Day of the Dead. It's not pleasant, but we're so used to it. We've watched it so much that it doesn't bother us.
Yeah, and whereas you watch the Fulci movies, and there's it's so different compared to the gore in those movies. It's like,
yeah, it is. Yeah,
you just don't want to watch it. You can't watch it because it's so slow and it takes time. And it's
the beating of the woman to death in House was most upsetting because of her reaction. Her whimpers, her moans, her screams were genuinely affecting.
Have you seen New York Ripper?
I haven't. No. It's one of the ones
that movie is very. It's definitely the worst. Like most graphic and just.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to go back. I think I'm going to do that and something else with Mike. I forget what we discussed, but Mike wants to come on. Having never been on the Diner, Mike Murphy is finally going to come on the Diner and do, I believe, 2 Fulci movies. I don't know which ones, and I don't know where I discussed it with him because it apparently is not here. But
a killer who talks like Donald Duck. It's so bizarre. Like, I'm watching it, like, I don't know what to make of this. Is this? I almost want to laugh, but at the same time, it's so creepy and weird. It's a strange movie, that one.
Sure. Well, look, Filip, thanks ever so much, man, for being on the show again. Love talking Fulci with you, and let's pick another one of your horror things and do it down the line. That would be good fun. So.
Yeah, it's always great to be here. It's fun talking movies with you, and you get a great show, and the show should go on.
Oh, the show is going to continue as long as I possibly can make it. I need to get a job in the next 2 months, or I won't be around anymore. But as long as I get a job in the next 2 months, then the show will continue. And obviously, the more support I get on Patreon and my albums and things like that, then the easier it is for me. But no, I've hit hard times over the last year. But hopefully, we will hit an upswing and everything will go back to normal.
I got a job myself right now, but I think in the future, I've been thinking about perhaps turning to filmmaking, perhaps. I've been considering actually perhaps going to some...
Interesting, Filip. I like that idea, so yes.
Yeah, I've actually talked with some people recently who have a school where they, you can study filmmaking, and talk with them about it, and they're like, you should go to our school. So maybe at some point in the future I might... because I don't think I'm going to be working with dogs, which is what I do regularly. I work at a dog daycare.
Sure.
So I might, who knows... Might be.
Well, sir, why don't you wow us all and become the first splatter king of Sweden?
Yeah, we'll see, because, maybe.
Yeah, so. You just need some dry ice, some 70s synth music, and lots of gore. That's really what you need, and that's what we want back in the movies. But thanks ever so much again, Filip, and thanks for your kind words, sir, and we'll talk again online, and we'll do this again, hopefully before the year... cycle again, because we've done this only once a year, so let's do this again sooner. All right?
Sure. Thank you.
All right, take care, man. Bye now. And to play us out, I'm incredibly honored to have on the show right now Mumford & Sons. I had a dream I went for dinner. A misty house somewhere in New England. Oh, there was a fog, no lights to light my way, and I had a cigar and a beige corduroy jacket. The wind, it was full, the night, it was heavy, but I was too hungry to stop. I was having dinner with Lucio Fulci. Oh, he pulled up in an Alfa Romeo, a crate of sheep's eyes on the passenger seat, and in the trunk a machine gun and some olives, a tank of tarantula spiders and some fake titties. The house, it had gravestones, looked abandoned to me, but I was too hungry to stop. I was having dinner with Lucio Fulci. He ordered the lobster, I asked for some napkins, the corpses shuffled in the kitchen. He talked about horror, he talked about love, but I didn't understand a word. I don't speak Italian, I don't speak Italian. He screamed at a waitress, and then he ate some dirt, and he held my hand, and his skin was like paper. We talked about cheeses and making special effects. He became agitated and demanded more olives. We walked after dinner through farms deathly misty, but I was too full up to care. I had just had dinner with Lucio Fulci. I had just had dinner with Lucio Fulci in my dreams. He ordered the lobster, the napkins came torn, the corpses devoured bits of the chef at random. He talked about horror, he talked about love, but I didn't understand a word. I don't speak Italian, I don't speak Italian. I've never been to Italy, I barely speak English. It was all a dream. Like the show? Well, you can find our complete podcast archive over at amdpodcast.blogspot.com or aftermoviediner.com. You can send us an email at aftermoviediner@gmail.com, tweet us at aftermoviediner, or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/aftermoviediner. Or why not be a part of the show and leave us a voicemail over at speakpipe.com/aftermoviediner. You can also support the show a number of ways, by spreading the word to family, friends and co-workers, by writing us a review over at iTunes or TalkShoe, by purchasing some excellent diner merchandise over at cafepress.com/aftermoviediner, by donating on our website, by advertising with our website, or maybe you're a regular Amazon user. If so, then before you make a purchase, go to amdpodcast.blogspot.com, aftermoviediner.blogspot.com, or aftermoviediner.com and click through the Amazon banner ads. It costs you nothing extra, but they throw us a few coins for the trouble. Or, like the movies we cover, then buy them over at our personal Amazon store, also on amdpodcast.blogspot.com. Really, thanks everybody for everything you continue to do, and please keep listening.
There are men, and then there are second unit podcast men. The podcast you've just been listening to is part of the Second Unit Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at 2upn.blogspot.com or on Facebook under the Second Unit Podcast Network. Our fantastic list of shows include Drunk on VHS, We Came from the Basement, No Budget Nightmares, The After Movie Diner, Dr. Action and the Kick-Ass Kid, and Bloodbaths and Boomsticks. Take one podcast into the shower. Don't be a blithering idiot, Alan. We can give you the multiple podcast cleansing system all in one place that your hair deserves. Our programming is available across all platforms, from iTunes to Podomatic, TalkShoe to Stitcher, so you have absolutely no excuse. Listen today, and a free naked person of your choice will be shipped from Thailand to your door in a matter of weeks. The Second Unit Podcast Network, bringing you the action and leaving the boring stuff to the other guys. Bloody hell. Who does a girl have to blow around here to get a decent beverage?